know that residents coming out of school have lots of options when deciding how and where to practice, whether that's in private practice with a solo orthodontist, a group practice, or even a DSO or an orthodontic support organization. Many factors affect that decision of where to practice and who to practice with, ranging from amount of student debt, experience, and desire for the future on type of ownership model that you'd like to participate in. Many of these factors have changed from 15, 10, even 5 years ago. Today, we welcome Dr. Josh Adcox. He's serving as the clinical director of remote care for Smile Doctors Orthodontics. He practices in Harker Heights, Texas, just north of Austin. Today, we'll discuss the reality of working inside an OSO right out of residency. Welcome, and thank you for being here today.
The do it, Scott.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your journey, where you started, all that stuff.
Yeah, man, I'm from a little town called Taylor, Arizona, up northeastern Arizona, kind of between the Navajo and Apache Indian reservations. I have a great love for that part of the country. Grew up there, small town, no stoplights. I think they got one now, but that's about it. Went on a mission for my church, Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was served in Paraguay. Then I met my sweetheart, Jamie, in college. Went to school, dug hard with all the schooling, and raising five kids, and now I'm an orthodontist. So yeah, I'm in Texas.
That's great. Did you always want to be an orthodontist, or what was your inspiration there?
No, I wanted to snowboard professionally. That was my time spent every winter on the mountain. And after I got off my mission, went to Utah. So one of the only reasons I went to BYU was I was right next to Park City. Could go snowboard all the time, and did. In fact, I was in college when I got married. I had to get serious with a career, and it looked like snowboarding. I'd broke my collarbone, and looked like snowboarding probably wasn't going to be it. And so I was teaching snowboard lessons to a family, and I'd pick up 5 kids, and I'd drive them up to the ski resort and take care of them like all day. Basically, I was babysitting. And one day I asked the kids, I was like, what does your guys' dad do? And they're like, oh, he's an orthodontist. And so I'd never got treatment when I was a kid. And so I had some crooked teeth, and I had thought about dental school, and I was kind of gearing toward the medical area. I'd only had a year of school under my belt though. And met him, and we combined a deal to, I do so many lessons and he'd pay for braces. And so I got treated by him. And we became friends. And long story short, I went to dental school, and that's where I was focused on orthodontics. During the process, I came out of dental school not an orthodontist, didn't apply right away, but ended up getting there anyway. But that's Dr. Trapman in Utah. Yeah, he influenced that decision.
That's great. I know all those Trapnells. I think there's 5 of them, but yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. Brian.
Yeah. Tell me. Yeah, it was Brian. Okay, cool. Yeah, I went to school with 3 of them. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible story. Their dad happened to be my high school counselor too. So that's an awesome thing. Yeah, totally. So when you got into residency, tell me about that. So you practice as a general dentist. I know a little bit about your biomimetic dentistry, which is pretty cool too. So you're kind of an artist that way. And then you got into residency. Tell us about that little short stop.
Yeah, so dental school is fantastic. I got into USC. Arizona didn't have a resident, a college there, or private or public one. So I was like, well, I'm going to pay a lot for dental school, so why don't we go to California? So USC, and there, I was meant to go there. One of my greatest mentors in dental school was Pascal Magnier, who's the father of biomimetic dentistry, and it's minimally invasive dentistry, which I'm passionate about. It's adhesive dentistry. And he taught me that to do more, you do less. And that's a principle I live by, if you know me, how to do more with less and make it better. And so I taught with him after I graduated, and worked with another one of my mentors in his private practice. And then I also worked, just to make ends meet in a few DSOs. And so I was working 6 days a week, teaching at the school, kind of really digging in and trying to learn. And one day, I would refer a lot to my orthodontist I worked with, in the areas that the two areas I worked in, and both of them were like, why don't you become an orthodontist? Like you ask so many questions toward it, you get it. You bring us cases that are supposed to be set up for minimal restorations after, and that was kind of the ideal is what I was taught is we set up the occlusion, we set up things to minimally influence restorations to keep as much natural tooth structure as possible. So I went to Pascal and I said, hey, I'm going to apply to go to ortho. And he's Swiss. So in his Swiss accent, he's like, oh, you're breaking my heart. And I said, Pascal, like, how more minimally invasive can you get than just moving teeth? I was like, you should be proud of me. And he looked at me and said, I've taught you well. How can I help you? And let me write you a letter of recommendation. And I still keep in contact with him. He's been a great influence on my life. But yeah, setting up things minimally invasive and doing things in a way that can change lives, I'm passionate about. And that's why I went back to school to go to ortho. So had that background of minimally invasive dentistry, biomedics, and that influenced me to go to complete the full loop and go do ortho. And that took me to Vanderbilt.
Great. So you practice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you practiced in private practice. You practiced for DSO as a general dentist. So when you were in residency, what did it look like for you when you were getting out? How did that factor into your options that you had available of where to go practice ortho?
Well, that influence of working for DSOs for a couple of years in private practice influenced me not to want to work for a DSO afterward as an orthodontist. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what I wanted. And so I was looking to buy a practice, and so I looked and looked and looked. But when I came out, I was at Vanderbilt. When I was looking in the areas that I wanted to live, there were no great options. I mean, there were a few options, but I also felt, hey, am I totally ready to own a practice and go for it? And I thought I was, but I also wanted to learn and grow and before I took that plunge. And so I think if I would have had the perfect scenario to buy, I would have done it, but it just wasn't on the table with the timing. And so I met you. I was at a Ormco kind of meeting with my co-residents. I was about halfway through residency. And I remember you lecturing on efficiencies and office culture. Along with John Graham. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know. You probably remember you lectured so many times, but during that lecture, I leaned over to my co-residents and I said, I want to go visit that office. That sounds like exactly the type of environment I want to work in or team culture that I want. And one of them's pretty pessimistic. Leaned over and was like, that doesn't exist. And I said, well, I'm going to go find out. And so I approached you and said, hey, can I come shadow you? Now it's back when you had Central Texas Orthodontics as pre-Smile Doctors. And you're like, yeah, why don't you come out and visit? And so I did. And I had a great time. I remember coming, I was pretty nervous and sitting in your morning meeting and your team is treatment planning and diagnosing. And I remember leaning over to you and saying, they can treatment plan and diagnose better than me and my co-residents. And it was a very humbling moment for me. And then the whole day just was like, it just was this, like almost like a fairy tale. I was like, man, you really can see high volume, have quality, and have a great patient experience. And I leaned over to one of the clinicians at one point. Their name was Trish. And I was like, is this for real? Or are you guys just putting on a show for visitors? And she just laughed and she's like, no, this is our everyday. This is how it works. And I was, again, just kind of like, all right, I got to figure this out. And so during residency, I think I had 4 months left, and that's when you formed Smile Doctors, and we had stayed in contact, and so I was looking at a few options. I had another kind of small DSO I could work for. I had an opportunity of a private practice. It's going to take a lot of work, or you'd give me an opportunity to consider joining Smile Doctors as an associate. And for me, it wasn't that hard of a decision because of you, and then I met Dana Vendor and I met Greg along the process. And it was Dana leaning over one day saying, well, it's all about the patient. We we take care of people first, and then the teeth get straight, and that's not the focus. It's people. And that really influenced me. And I saw that with what you did and what Dana did, and said, well, I need to learn from these guys. So I signed up, and I told my wife, hey, let's give it 2-3 years and see what we can learn, and then go do our own thing. And that's kind of how I came full circle to take that risk of joining an OSO, right? Formerly, we used to call them DSOs, but and take that plunge. And against faculty advisement, a lot of my faculty were like, "What are you doing? You're smarter than this. Like, this is not going to go well." But here we are.
That's my favorite. I love hearing people say, "Oh, unicorns don't exist," and actually, they do. And it is all about the people
Yeah.
and the attitude and the culture, and what are the goals of the organization? Who's central? Is it the doctor or is it the patient? And the team and everyone else that we have the privilege to serve. It's pretty cool. So you differentiated that DSO, OSO. I think there's still some confusion out there, even though we've talked a lot about it. In your mind, having worked at a DSO, why didn't you want to practice orthodontics in a DSO, and how is it different practicing within an OSO?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different DSOs and a lot of different models. The ones that I were particularly looking at, or were recruiting me, the specialist was not, it's kind of like an add-on. It was not the focus. And the other thing was there's limitations on autonomy of like products to use, how to treat. There was, you kind of had some autonomy, but not really. And when I was a dentist, a particular OSO or a DSO that I worked with, it was so production driven. The patient experience suffered, and also the team experience. The employees were constantly turning over, and I wasn't excited to be there or go there. And the difference with an OSO, with us, orthodontic support organization, is strictly orthodontics, and we focus on doing really good orthodontics and not being afraid to use the best products and innovate technology. And number one for our OSO that we have, which again, like you said, I think is a unicorn, is we are people first business, and we straighten teeth second. And that's always been the focus that we've had as long as I've been a part. And I've been a part since Smile Doctor since the beginning. I think the company was 4 or 5, maybe 6 months old when I joined. And so what did we have, Scott? I think we had 17, 15,
Oh, man.
16, 17 doctors.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
that. It was
That was
really,
it.
really early on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't really know
Yeah,
what to
now
do with
we're
me. I was
over.
one of the first associates.
That's right. You were. I think you were one of the very first to join, not within an affiliation and another practice joining. Yeah,
Right.
to join on your own. Absolutely. I think, and now we're over 330 or 40 doctors. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, the growth that's taken place there. Yeah.
I think, but to loop that in, to kind of close that thought, Scott, the difference for me is the culture, people first, and that, as you kind of have the whole, if you focus on people, everything else follows, and the autonomy to treat and do really good orthodontics. That's been the focus with our OSO, and I've not seen that with all groups.
I agree. I think one of the unfortunate stats, I don't have it exactly, but I know that other practices that begin to push for numbers, push for starts, push for things like that, all of a sudden you end up with kids that need braces or have braces on that don't really need them. And, maybe it's a really, really early treatment or anything like that. And I think in Smile Doctors, we're less than 4%, 3 or 4% of all of our starts are phase 1. And so that's something that I'm very proud of. And we just, if they need treatment, then they need treatment. If they don't, then they don't. And we wait until the time is right for if and when we treat. And it's what would we do with our own kids and treat just in that same mind frame. So that's something that I'm very proud of, that we put people first and teeth second. So Josh, tell us a little bit about your journey inside of Smile Doctors? What kind of changes you made, your struggle with staying or your decision to stay, just all of that. I think the story's fascinating.
Yeah, so I joined. We got going early on. I took on an office that just affiliated and shared it with one of the doctors that was phasing out and one of our other locations, and grew those. And I learned a ton quickly. And that's one of the things I love about being part of this unicorn, this OSO Smile Doctors, is I have so many mentors to teach me how to be business minded, but yet treat people the right way as a leader, team, patients, give the whole experience, and be a really good clinical orthodontist and use technology to do it. And so I had the opportunity to shift gears and take on another office that was, an organization that was very busy. It's your original location, which was an honor, right? In Harker Heights here in Texas. And honestly, at first I was really nervous. I remember I came to you and I was like, I don't know, man. Like, that's a lot to do. And so I knew if I was going to grow, and you as a mentor taught me this as well, like, well, you got to get uncomfortable and to grow. So let's do it, and we'll help you through it. And so we did. And to put in perspective, a day to day at that time, that was 2019. I started in that January, and a typical day there at that office was about 140, 150, 160 patients a day. Braces mainly, maybe we had 2-3% Invisalign, very few patients we were treating with Invisalign at the time. And it was 4.5 days a week. So we're just grinding. And typically we bled through into lunch and bled through past hours, so we were it was a constant flow. And that whole year we worked on a few things. We had a few projects, which I loved being a part of. We implemented treatment plans, which helped us get more organized. We improved our overestimated completion dates on those cases. We got out a lot of cases. We improved our comforts, which are emergency visits. And so we've made some ton of headway. So we got that down to like 130 patients a day, but we grew by about 400,000. And at the end of that year, kind of flexed my muscles and was like, heck yeah, look what we did. But I was burnt out. And I think it was December, I came to you. Maybe it was January. During the holidays. I said, I don't think I can continue to do this my whole career. It was decision fatigue at its finest, and I also was, and I didn't know at the time, suffering from imposter syndrome. I was trying to be Scott Law, or Dana Fender, or Greg Goggins, or Ryan Hurley. All these amazing doctors we had in our organization. I was not being Josh Adcox. And I wasn't using my talents and abilities to lead and grow. I was doing it on fumes. And what suffered mostly was my relationships around me. Patient experience was better, I thought, but it still wasn't. I don't feel like I was giving it the best I could, because I love clinical orthodontics, and I needed to be everywhere, and I couldn't focus on the people in front of me. So right around that time, it was the very start of 2020, it was January. I read a book called Essentialism. The basic premise is how do you sift away the trivial many things that bog you down and focus on the vital few things in front of you that are important. And you automate and use systems to sift away the trivial many. And I had a foot out, that I was looking at another practice. I even went out to look at it, to buy in another state. And in fact, what's funny is that practice actually joined Smile Doctors because I didn't buy it, but that's another story for another day. And I was that, and then my wife's super wise, and she's my best friend and my greatest mentor, actually. She said, Josh, we're just running. The problem is us. Like, kind of more like, the problem is you. But she said it in a kind way.
Wow.
Right? Us.
Yeah.
The problem is you. Basically, you have to make the changes you want to see to focus on your family, because you're just going to go to another practice and you're going to have the same problems. And I was like, all right, let's give this a year. And that was the moment where I went back to the office and I took down all of your stuff. I think it's just some family photos. You had a few things that were personal to you. And I took them all down, put them in a box, and I took them over to your house and dropped them on your doorstep. And I don't even think
Yep.
I rang the doorbell. I just left it.
No.
And decided and went to my team. I said, this is a new era. And then literally 3 weeks later, COVID hit. And that was about the time we were innovating technology with dental monitoring. Well, anyway, I'm going to keep this brief, but I used that opportunity of COVID along with opportunity with technology. And what I love about Smile Doctors is I was given autonomy to make some changes. I just did them to improve the patient experience, team experience, my experience. And we was able to change the share of chair to aligners. Now we're around 60%, which is a big feat for a large practice, and automate the processes to improve. And we've been able to grow about 20 to 25% in production, but on less days worked, less hours in the day. We don't bleed over into lunch. We don't bleed over in end of day. And we have less team members to manage. And so my time is now better spent focusing on patients, or the people in front of me, my team, my patients. And then when I go home, I'm not gassed. I'm not as tired, and I can focus on what matters most to me, which is Jamie, my dear wife, my 5 beautiful children. Last year I was able to be a head coach of a Pee Wee football team. You know all about that, Scott. And things that I never had time for, ever. And I'm doing them, and I love it. And anyway, so that's what my day-to-day now looks like. Around 60 to 80 patients a day, 80, 90 if we're a really busy production day. But it's not running around with my head cut off, trying to bend a bunch of wire and do all these little things. It's communicating with patients, taking care of my team, having time to do digital homework at work so I don't take it home, and focus on the things that are important to me.
That's beautiful. I love the passion that you have all throughout your life. So at work, at home, with your hobbies, with your kids, with your wife, it's just beautiful. So that's exactly it. And now it's fascinating. I hadn't heard you tell that story about Pascal, about the doing more with less, and that's always kind of been a theme through your life. So that's really cool. I knew about the book Essentialism, but I didn't know that it connected all those dots all the way through. So that's really cool to hear. Go tell us a little bit about how the equity side and the ownership side is different than in private practice, but how it's been a benefit to you, and then some of the things that are on the horizon with de novo, stuff like that.
Yeah, this part's really exciting. So like I mentioned a minute ago, y'all didn't really know what to do with me as a non-selling, non-attached to an office. So I came just straight out of residency. And so the original, it was like, all right, well, here's a yearly salary. And I was good with that. Like, it was very fair. But after a couple of years, I was like, hey, or actually it was only a year, like, hey, like, what's in it for me long term? Like, if not, I'm gonna take what I learned. I'm gonna go do this, and then maybe I'll sell a practice back to you, right? I don't know. And so I was offered equity, and it was kind of unclear at first. I had to come up with my own money, and I did. That was a really big moment for me and my wife. Like, in fact, she was not really happy with me because I kind of took all of our savings. It's like I put all the chips on the table. It's like, we're going all in. Like, I drained my bank account, and it wasn't much, but it was enough to have some sort of equity, and did it. But what's beautiful is you guys have listened to me along the way. I said, look, you got to find an easier way to get equity. Like, you can't just drain all of our bank accounts. Most of us have a mountain of student loans. And now we offer equity and help finance it, which is beautiful. And I was able to also do that later as it was offered, which was awesome. And which in the long run helped me pay off my student loans earlier than I would have imagined, which has been amazing for me. And also accomplish other financial goals of mine because of the equity of being a shareholder and going through that process. The other piece I'm even more excited about, because about the time in 2019, I got the year started 2020, and I had I contemplated to leave. was because at the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, your whole career, you thought, and this is what I thought, I'd be private practice owner. Like, I'm going to run the show. I'm going to do all the hats. And I struggled with that. I'm like, I wanted to flex my muscles on that a little bit. Like, look, I did it. I ran a business. I did it all by myself. Now, looking at all that goes into it, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not, because now I have the opportunity to do that, but in partnership. So you mentioned De Novo, right? We now form a JV model, a joint cabinet model where the doctor and small doctors join. And I'm starting my own practice from scratch with joining with Smile Doctors. Should be open here in the next 90 days, which I'm really pumped for. And that's going to allow me to, gain even more equity. And then after a period of time, sell it at a guaranteed EBITDA return and have that opportunity to do what everybody else does as they join as a practice owner, right? Sell it for equity. And then just, there's just other ways to earn and grow and learn, right? And so I'm going to take all the knowledge I have and apply it to a De Novo and help that grow and kind of cross that off my list too of owning a practice, right?
Very cool. Oh, I'm excited for what you're going to do with that. Just the innovation, the way your brain works, and I'm excited for that, the growth of that practice. Additionally, not only to see how you grow and continue to grow, but also everyone around you. That's what I'm most impressed with, Josh, is to see how you grow things. And I'm really excited for this De Novo to see where you take that and all the innovation that you're going to bring and grow people around you. I know that practice, Central Texas Orthodontics or Smile Doctors in Harker Heights, when you took that over, yeah, there was a lot that needed to be fixed and retooled. It was operating in an older model, yet with all this innovation. I think as orthodontists, we're faced with that all of the time. So how are we going to adapt to new technologies, new demands from the patient, and yet still hold patient care at the utmost? And also, we need to remain profitable. We can't just continue to give away profit to every vendor that comes along with a great idea. We have to go, well, what is best for the patient ultimately? And then what will allow us to keep a profit so that we can provide amply for our families and continue business forward. And so I loved what you did. I loved how you came in and you just took the culture and you were like, let's grow this. What do we need to do to grow all these people around us, delegate even further, put systems in place that were repeatable? And it is extremely impressive. It's one of the reasons why I'm so glad you're the clinical director of remote care, that you get to influence all these other practices inside of Smile Doctors, and those that want to contribute and be remote care doc and want to learn from you and contribute their ideas that we can then implement all the way around. It's really quite cool.
Well, thanks, Scott. One of my favorite things that I get to do is be part of the clinical director group and work alongside you, Bob Wah, Zach Casagrande. Like, I remember learning about Bob during residency, and I get to work hand in hand with him. Like, are you kidding me? Zach, the largest Invisalign provider in the world, right? And innovate and do all these exciting things and keep it patient focused. I mean, that's my biggest desire with the remote care is we have like Smile Direct Club run through and we have these companies. And so I said, hey, well, if we're going to do remote care, well, let's be the world leader in it. And let's do it to such a high level that everybody else has to do it at a high level. So we preserve the profession and take great care of our patients. And that word around care is so important to me in so many ways. I mean, yeah, we're going to deliver the standard of care. We're going to take care of people. But that's the noun sense, right? In the verb sense, like it's action. Like, what are we going to do to actually care for people? And what I found is you can do that remotely as well. It takes a little bit more effort and you have to get creative with it, but it's so important. And that's what I've been given a platform to be creative and to do that and innovate and make these connections with other companies like Dental Monitoring, or Invisalign, or, you name it. We get to all partner together to make our industry better. And it's been quite a journey. I would have never thought that at this point in my career, I get to not only run a large practice, one of the largest in the nation, and grow it and do it on less effort, less time. Also have another role in a large, OSO a leader role and grow a whole nother department. And then also start my own practice and do it all at the same time. And that's not doing more with less, I don't know what is. And I recently read a couple books, and what's interesting is as I'm reading them, all I could think about is like, oh, Scott taught me this, or oh, Greg Goggins taught me this, or oh, Pascal Monnier taught me this. And it's two main books, and I recommend everybody to read these. One is Who Not How, by Dan Sullivan, and then also 10x is easier than 2x. And the premises of these books is I learned from you, it's empowering and building up people around you. And it's finding the right the right people. And we know who those are in our organization and also in our office there in Harker Heights. And as I've done that, it's been easier to 10x my growth, not only personally, but in the organization and in the office, because we trust the who people. And what's also interesting, I didn't realize I did this until I read this book, is when you want to 10x something, you have to completely change how you're doing it. If you're doing it the same way, to grow 2 times, you have to do 2 times as much work. And I did not want to do more work. I wanted to do it on less, but we wanted more. So that's why we completely changed the process. That's why we introduced automation with remote care. The AI with dental monitoring is hands down what allows us to do what we do. We had to change from analog traditional braces to more aligner system. Now we're going the next level right now with custom braces, and I'm able to test and innovate that with Dr. Wah, right? And so all of these things continue to play and to come into play. It just blows my mind how this continues to snowball, and the opportunities I've been giving, and the things we're able to do, and the future we hold. This is a unicorn organization, and I'm proud to be a part of it. It's been the best part of my career.
I love it. I love it. One final question. So, what advice would you have for residents who are considering a career with Smile Doctors or an OSO, or going into private practice? What are some things that they should ask themselves and really to determine what their future looks like?
One is you think you know what you want, but you really don't. I always thought I wanted to be a private practice owner. And when I joined the landscape, that is either you had to buy and do it, or you had to join and be an associate. Well, nowadays with Smile Doctors, especially, you have opportunity for equity. You have opportunity to grow financially in that aspect. And then what I also found is, when I did join, I kind of acted like an associate, in the sense of the mindset of, oh, I didn't own it. I don't make any decisions. Like, there's one lane for me to do, and it's just to show up and go home. Well, no, like what I love about, if you want a career that teaches you how to think like an owner and think like a business owner on the clinical side and also the business side, well, Smile Doctors has that for you. I can't say that for all DSOs or OSOs, but I know Smile Doctors does. And every time I've wanted to, look at a P&L, profit loss statement, or learn how to, the marketing aspect, I just go to the right person that's an expert at that, and they teach us, and we get better at it. Now, what's awesome though, is I don't have the responsibility to run payroll, to pay the bills, to all the other things that come along with it. But what I've learned through time is my responsibility is to be a leader, inspire the team around me, find the who people so that they can grow and learn, and we can accomplish more together, which, again, like I say, how to do more with less and make the experience better for all. And that's Smile Doctors is the perfect environment for me to have that ability to do that. And so if you're looking to join any OSO or any DSO, you got to look at, how do you want your career to look in 3 to 5 years? And if you're going to just do it to bell, then I don't think it matters what organization you join. But if you're looking for a long-term career to build wealth and to build knowledge clinically and on the other aspects of the business, kind of find your niche. I find mine, it's being the clinical director of remote care. I'm passionate about it, but you can find that where you fit in, and then you'll have a ton of mentors within our organization to help mentor you to be the best at that.
It's amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, your story, your whole experience, and I love hearing about it and watching you grow, Josh. It's incredible. You're an inspiration to me. You've inspired me in so many ways to rethink my life personally and professionally, just on what I'm doing. How can I be more effective? And am I accomplishing really what matters most? And getting rid of the trivial few things instead of focusing on the heart of the matter. So thank you, Josh, for your influence. Love you, brother. If people want to get in touch with you, what's a great way to get in touch with you?
My email is josh.adcox@smiledoctors.com. Yeah, that's the easiest way to probably, and then we can jump on a chat anytime. I'm happy to.
Sounds great. All right. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, much love. Thanks, Scott.